Hey everybody, it's Natalie McKenzie with The Whole Woman, and it's 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. That makes it Quaren-Tea time. That's right. Get your tea, hit that share button, invite a few friends, and put your feet up. Because today we're going to be talking all things feet and sexy feet. That's right. When our guest gets done with you ladies, you know what? He's gonna love you from head to toe. Throw up some hearts and help me welcome our doctor. Fix your feet, Dr. Yolanda Ragland.
Hi, hello, Natalie. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you for joining us and welcome to Quaren-Tea.
Oh, and thank you again.
I'm loving your mug. See, let's see what's on your cup. Let's see that.
Oh, I'm there we go.
Oh, I love it. The soles of your feet. I love it. Fix your feet. And it matches everything, the whole woman. I think it's a match made in heaven.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, Dr. Ragland, fix your feet. I'm going to start with the disclaimer that I've had problem feet almost all my life. I danced. All my toes are a mess. I'm a tall girl and I have big feet. And I love me some beautiful shoes. But I don't want to have surgery because I can't stop running.
I understand. I mean, you're beautiful, and you should absolutely have feet to match it. And I know you don't want to stop running, but if it is something that's paining you, and you may even feel a little embarrassed about, the downtime is not that bad. It's not as bad as you think it's going to be. And it's something that I think you should reconsider, especially under my care, because I bring the whole approach to a whole different level. The level of expectation that most of my patients have is they usually think that it's going to be horrible. And
everything we hear tells us it's a nightmare. The recovery is horrible. It's painful. And the list goes on.
Let me tell you something. I tell everyone, I said, all those horror stories that you hear out there are absolutely true, but just not under my care.
Well, okay, Dr. Ragland, you have all the awards. You've been touted by your clients. I mean, your testimonials are really something to talk about. Your reputation speaks for itself. You have practices in 2 states. And so clearly you're doing something right. And I don't mean New York and New Jersey. It's DC and New York. So you're stretching yourself, and people are traveling all across the country to see you. Wonderful. What went into the making of this physician, this doctor? What makes you so special, Dr. Ragland? Tell us about young Yolanda, where she's from, what went into the making of her, and why we have such an amazing doctor in her.
Oh, wow. We could go on for days, but I am originally from Washington, D.C. I was born in Georgetown Hospital. So I'm definitely a Washingtonian. But however, I spent most of my years, I think by the age of 5, we moved out to Maryland, Montgomery County, Maryland. So I did my elementary school there and my high school there. And I also wound up graduating from the University of Maryland, College Park as well.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your formative years. I see on the screen that we mentioned that your mom's Trinidadian. And let's talk about that cultural influence, because I'm sure it made for a very different childhood.
Oh, it definitely did. It's almost as if I never fit in quite anywhere. I always went to predominantly white schools, and having a mother that was Black but not from this country, that still set me apart from the few other Black girls that I was going to school with. So that was always the difference. But I think because my mother, I understood the expectations that she had of me. I understood that she was always working really, really hard. And I appreciated all the efforts that she put in for me and my brother. So I set an expectation for myself. I set the bar high for myself because I felt like that's what she deserved, a daughter like that. Period.
And so you mentioned your brother. Is he older or younger?
My brother is older.
And you're attending schools that are predominantly white. Tell us about that experience as a student and how that helped to shape who you are today.
Well, going to predominantly white schools in the late 70s and early 80s, I felt like, well, it was actually just blatantly said that people just automatically assume just because of my complexion, because I was Black, that I wasn't a smart person. But I always knew that I was smart. In fact, I always thought I was smarter. I thought I was stronger. I thought I was faster. And I always made sure I lived up to that. And I made sure I demonstrated that in many, many different aspects, whether it was academically or whether it was athletically.
And were you athletic? Were you an athletic student?
I would call myself definitely an athletic student. I always participated in some sort of sport, from basketball to softball to cheerleading to track. Not only with just sports, I would participate. If somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, we're starting a new basket weaving club," I was the girl that raised like, "Okay, I'll try that. Let's see what that produces."
Shy and retiring, you never were.
Pardon?
Shy and retiring were never your style.
Oh no.
Awesome. So now tell us about, did you go to public schools or private school?
So up until 8th grade, I was in a Catholic school. And by the time I finished with Catholic school, I think I had been traumatized by the nuns. And so I begged my mother. We moved even further out into the suburbs. So we were very close to Washington, D.C. And then we moved out to an area that was very rural. My high school surrounded by a cornfield, and there was an equestrian center right down the road. There was a horse with a barn right next to the track and field. So it was a AAA huge school, and like I said, it was predominantly white. In fact, the school that I was supposed to go to in that area had more African American students, and they wanted to not have one school be all Black and one school be all white. So I was actually bused to this location. So I was living in Gaithersburg, Maryland, but going to school in Rockville, Maryland, even though most people would not even recognize it as Rockville, Maryland at that time because it was so rural.
Wow. And okay, how was that experience transitioning from private school to public school? I know I did the opposite. I went from private school to public school, but my public school was a Catholic school, and the vast difference.
Well, the transition wasn't difficult. I found it kind of easy. It was a little too easy for me. I had expressed to these people that many of these classes that they wanted to put me into in 9th grade were classes that I had already done, and that I felt like I shouldn't have had to have taken those classes again. And they said, "Oh no," they dismissed me. They sent me on. So naturally I became a disruption. And instead of saying, "Hey, this girl has it down, she knows what she's doing," because I was disruptive, they said, "Oh, well, let's put her in special education classes." Oh. And that was completely unacceptable to me, knowing that my mother was working so hard and that she was paying for me to go to this Catholic school beforehand, and knowing that I had this really strong foundation, I had a strong mind, I was very bright. There was no way I was going to allow them to put me in a special education class. And this was a special education English class.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Did you have an accent by chance? No,
I had no accent. I'm speaking exactly the way that this. In fact, now I would say now I have more of people don't like using the word, but I'm going to use it. I think nowadays I probably speak more urban-like than I ever did in my life. I'm embracing it. I think it's a beautiful, I think the way that we take words and the way that we use it, I love it. So I embrace it and I use it. I might not use it all the time. I use it when it's appropriate. I always say I have an alternative personality. Her name is, you want to know her name? Her name is Lucretia Jenkins Johnson's Washington Jefferson, because I keep all my baby daddy's last names. Okay, and it's the whole thing. And if you forget, I keep all my baby daddy's last names, Lucretia gets an attitude. So I'm just letting you know you're hearing Dr. Ragland right now. And Dr. Ragland did try to get rid of Lucretia, but Lucretia said, "No, girl."
You got me going there. And
said,
all
"No, girl, you need me." And she was right.
All the baby daddy names. Oh my God, Dr. Ragland. Okay. So I'm sure Lucretia kept them in check in high school and graduated in fine style.
Well, Lucretia was always there, but she really immersed more as I became more of a professional because they weren't accustomed to seeing someone like myself in power, in the right place, in these places. That still to this day, I have not seen another person that looks like myself at the private ORs that I operate out of. And I think that's really sad.
Wow. So let's talk about college, because you obviously graduate high school. You're not going to not graduate. You graduate, you go off to college. Let's talk about your college experience and where you studied.
Okay, well, that is kind of like a tortuous road there that I took. So I was off on my own very early. I went to college right out of high school, but I got very ill. And through that illness, that's one of the reasons why I became a doctor. So I got very sick. I didn't know what was wrong with me. It got to the point where I was having so much pain that I had to just withdraw from school completely because I didn't know what was wrong with me. And through finding out what was wrong with me, that's when I decided, I felt like a lot of these doctors didn't know anything. And so I decided I wanted to become a doctor because I wanted to know what they knew.
Okay. Most of us can't make that decision and then just become a doctor, but okay. So this undiagnosed health issue, you get to the bottom of it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you sick though, Doc?
It was for years. Basically, I had lower abdominal pain. I was being probed and prodded for years. They're all looking for some sort of STD, some sort of gynecological problem. I kept telling them, even at that time, I was like, I'm not even sexually active. There's something else going on wrong. And then finally, the pain stopped. And once the pain stopped, a lump appeared. And this was in my inguinal area. So that's the groin area, for those of you that don't know what that area is. But the lump would move. And so every time I went to the doctor, it would never present itself. And so this doctor this was a time when it was AIDS. There was no HIV. It was just AIDS. People were dying. And, they were testing me for everything. I thought I didn't know what. I thought I might have had AIDS, even though I wasn't doing anything. I thought I might have cancer. And when I saw the test results on this doctor's desk, I saw that it was all negative. And then finally, I just said to him, I'm like, the lump is not here, it's here. And finally, he just said, oh, that's a hernia. And I didn't know this back then, but what I know now is that all he had to do was give me a couple of glasses of water and do a sonogram, and they would have seen the tear on the sonogram. And all those times I felt like I was being traumatized every time they were doing an exam on me. And I'm just like,
oh my goodness.
It was insane because they kept repeating the same essays over and over and over again and getting the same negative results.
Wow. Okay. Thank God it was not anything else, that could have been life threatening. And so you get to the bottom of this. And then what do you do after that? Because now you've already made the decision to be a doctor. How do you move along with that?
So after figuring that out, I definitely said I'm moving forward to become a doctor. I finally graduated from the University of Maryland. Now, mind you, like I said, I'm from a Caribbean background, so there's a lot of working going on. I was taking care of myself, living on my own, paying all my bills. When you have to pay rent, the water, the light bill, the car insurance, and go to school full time. I was a cheerleader coach. I was waiting tables. I was working at the National Institutes of Health. I was doing all these things at one time. Honestly, sometimes I don't know how I got through it.
Wait a minute. Working at the NIH, National Institute of Health, that's not your run-of-the-mill job. So how did you get in there?
So I knew early on what the National Institutes of Health was. And I said, if I'm going to pursue a career in medicine, I should get a job there. So I had been trying. I had gone up there, filled out applications multiple times. The school that I was attending at the time, everyone knew me at this campus, and they said, "Hey, Yolanda, there's a job fair today." And this was at the University of the District of Columbia. So I did do a stint there. And no one knew that there was a career fair going on, first of all. So someone just in passing just came and told me. I ran over there. I told the lady, I remember her name to this day. Her name was Tony. And I said, "My name is Yolanda Ragland. My name is Yolanda Ragland. Did I tell you that my name was Yolanda Ragland?" And I said my name to her about 10 times. I'm like, I can type 60 words a minute. I don't want to do administrative work. I want to be in a lab. I want to do research. I really don't want to work with animals, but if I have to work with animals, I'll do it. And so she said, she calls me up later, about a week later. She says, "I have an interview for you. You are going to have to work with some animals in this lab. They're small animals. Is it okay?" I said, "Okay, I'll go." And I lived approximately 10 minutes away from the National Institutes of Health at the time. I went in on the interview, and by the time I got home, my answering machine, young people, we had this device called an answering machine.
Device.
It was a separate unit with a little cassette. You guys have no idea what that stuff is. But we had this individual machine that took our messages. And by the time I got home, I got a message from Tony indicating, she said, "I don't know what you did, but you got the job."
Wonderful. And there starts your medical career.
There starts my medical career for sure.
So you go ahead, you end up graduating from excuse me, not District of Columbia, but the University of Maryland, correct?
So while during my tour at the National Institutes of Health, a fellow came to me and just pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I understand that it's cost effective for you to go to this other school that you're going to, because it was like $700 in change for as many credits as you wanted. I mean, I could wait tables, over the weekend and make that money." And so he said, "But you should spend a little extra money and graduate from a school that if you said the name of it, that anywhere in the country, anyone would know what that school was." Mm-hmm. So I knew that I was around a lot of cerebral people, and I said, "Let me take this advice." And so I applied and said, "Okay, I'm going to go to the University of Maryland," not thinking that they weren't going to accept me. They must accept me. And
Ragland.
I'm Yolanda, because I'm Yolanda. Did I tell you? So yes. So I got into the University of Maryland, and I have to tell you, the only thing that I regret about that is that I didn't do my whole 4 years there.
Wonderful. And what was your major there?
So what I was trying to get a degree in was physiology, neurobiology. But when graduation time came around, I was told that I was missing like one 400 level class. And I was like, oh my, I have told my mother I'm graduating. She sent out announcements to, everyone in the Washington metropolitan area and the Caribbean. And, and I'm like, I'm like, so what can I get with what I have? And she says, oh, you can get your degree in biology. I said, wrap it up. I walk across the stage. I'll take it.
Nothing's going to deter you.
I'll take it.
And so you graduate with a degree in biology, which is perfectly fine for medical school. They'll take that too.
Physiology, neurobiology sounds real big-headed. I wanted that.
One more credit.
I was anorexically thin. I had the Nancy Reagan bobblehead look. I was exhausted. I was tired. I needed to finish.
Oh my God. So tell us about your entry to medical school. How was that for you?
So, well, actually, what I should tell you about is that how I decided to go to podiatry school, because honestly, I was receiving applications for podiatry school. I was throwing them away. And a friend of mine at the National Institutes of Health just so happened to be coming into my lab as I was about to toss away one of the applications. And I was like, yeah, I don't even know what this is. And she said, Yolanda, don't throw that away. She's like, there's hair, skin, and nail. Because what I didn't mention was that I thought I was going to be a dermatologist. And she's like, there's hair, skin, and nails on your foot. And so if you want to subspecialize in dermatology, you can subspecialize in dermatology on the foot. So I said, I like that. I like being a subspecialist in a subspecialty. And so that's how I wound up in podiatry school. I filled out the application, I went on the interview, and I was accepted.
And they were sending physical applications at the time. You didn't get online.
No, you didn't get anything online at all. Everything was coming in.
Now, which medical school were you accepted to?
So I attended the New York College of Podiatric Medicine in New York City on Park Avenue at 125th Street.
Okay. So you've moved from DC and you've moved to New York, and you follow your path and you become a podiatric surgeon. Well,
actually, when I entered into podiatry school, I didn't realize that there was a surgical aspect to it. But when I got there and I said, we can do surgery, I'm like, oh my, I can do this. I'm extremely dexterous. I'm very good with my hands. I'm very good at following instructions. And not only that, even if I don't get instructions, just show me how to do it. I'm really good at reproducing something else that someone has demonstrated to me.
Now, that's quite interesting, because you've developed your own technique called the tiara-toe technique. And we have a testimonial from one of your patients.
Yes.
Okay, we want to take a look at that.
I began to have foot trouble. I had severe hammer toes. I was really beginning to suffer for long periods of time. Back pain, with foot pain, with toe pain. So I said, okay, it's finally time to get this taken care of.
I know that Rhea was looking not only for comfort and not only to get rid of her pain, but she also wanted an aesthetic result.
I am, upset with myself that I procrastinated for so long, because if I had just gone in there and done it, I could have done this years ago, and it would have been absolutely wonderful.
Typical of most of my patients, they come in about 12 to 14 days after having the procedure done. I take off the bandages, I remove the sutures, I take the x-rays, and then that day I tell them that they can go into a sneaker type shift.
Oh goodness. No pain. I have twice as much energy now. because my feet and my back allow me to do so much more. Now my toes are straight. I just look down and I have beautiful toes that don't hurt. And it's wonderful.
Wow. So, Dr. Ragland, let's talk a little bit about that technique.
Okay, so just a moment. Are you getting backfeed noise too? Okay, so so the technique I developed, I wouldn't say that it's completely new, but I think I took it and I perfected it to a different level. So a lot of people will make incisions on the top part of the foot, and they usually do it in a direction that is not advantageous for getting a nice cosmetic result. So what I did witness a doctor one time make an incision in between the toes, and I said, but there's a big hard corn on there. And he said, well, if you get rid of what's causing the problem, the skin will revert back. And so I never forgot that. During my residency, I used to carry around a Wonder Woman journal, and I would jot down all the great things that I saw. And so by the time I finished, I took all the great things that I learned, and then I added a little bit of my own, my own little finesse to it. And then I developed this technique, and this is why you get results like you see here. So even though you don't see many incision lines, you might see one at the top of that second toe there. But as you can see, it goes in the same direction as a skin line. And keep in mind that this result here is only 4 months after surgery. So even that line that you see there on that second toe right next to the toenail, currently it's negligible. You can't really see it at all. All the other incisions are placed in between the toes. And since I have gotten rid of the bending action, which causes the joints to rub up against the shoe, the skin becomes traumatized, and then the skin tries to protect itself by forming a corn. Since I stopped that bending action and I have the toes laying down flat, the corn will just, I tell the patients, it dissolves away, but the skin essentially reverts back to its normal state.
Wow. So this is quite interesting, because I have personally, and like I said before, full disclaimer, I have the worst feet, dancer's feet, runner's feet, the whole 9 yards, but I'm still cute and sexy. I'm not defined by my feet. My husband loves them. So what am I going to say? However, I have to say, because of my feet, I need orthotics for my running shoes. I have to be very careful about wearing flats. All the things that we experience. Where can we find you? Because I am now thinking maybe I need to reconsider my fear of having this procedure done and come and see you.
I would love for you to come and see me, and I think you should reconsider that fare. But I'm, as the picture depicts right there, I'm at 1111 Park Avenue. And that's the Carnegie Hill area of the Upper East Side. I also have a practice in Bowie, Maryland, but essentially all the surgeries are performed in New York City.
All your surgeries are done in New York City?
All the surgeries are performed in New York City.
Now, is this your office we're looking at?
This is my lobby, yes.
Okay. And where do you perform? Are you affiliated with a specific hospital, or are you at a surgical center?
So I prefer to perform most of my procedures out of a private surgical center. I find that the surgical centers cater to the doctors. When you go to a bigger facility like a hospital system, sometimes they won't let you choose what you think might be the best devices, instruments, implantations, and I'm trying to give these ladies a level of service, give them a level of excellence when it comes to having this procedure done. And I need to have the materials that I want to use, not the ones they choose. So I prefer to operate out of a private OR.
Okay, now we're almost out of time, but I think this is the most important question. Someone like myself who needs to have both feet done,
Mhm.
You suggest that I do one and then wait 6 months and then go back again through the same torturous experience?
Absolutely not. I mean, you don't have time for this, Natalie. You, you have a rigorous schedule. You're a professional. Do you have time for two downtimes like that? Absolutely not. 2 feet can definitely be done at one time. Oftentimes, doctors will opt to only do 1 foot at a time. It is a monetary component to it. I do understand. I understand why they do 1 foot at a time. I just don't understand why they don't explain that to their patients. I think that the transparency, I think that no one would mind, I think everyone will understand why they're only doing 1 foot at a time.
So you really strongly recommend that you can go ahead and do both feet at the same time. I'm assuming.
Absolutely, you can walk after these procedures. In fact, you have to walk. This is not only a surgical procedure; it's bone surgery. So if you're not moving around, you have to have circulation going, and you can wind up getting a blood clot. So walking is definitely important postoperatively. And a lot of these ladies have young kids. They have to take them to school, and they get both feet, all the toes done, bunions, Taylor's bunions, all of it, all done at one time. And they do very well. Very few patients need a second round of pain medication. Most people don't finish all of it.
Okay, only because we're running out of time. How can we catch up with you? What's your website?
I'm at fixyourfeet.com. I'm on Instagram at fixyourfeet. I'm on also on Facebook, and Twitter is Fix Your Feet Inc.
Fix Your Feet Inc. for Twitter.
Correct.
Awesome. Okay, Dr. Ragland, are you able to perform your procedures during the restrictive times of COVID? That's another.
Currently, right now, I am allowed to perform my procedures. So yes, come on in. If you don't want to come inside, I can talk to you virtually online.
Oh, you'll look at my feet online?
We have you submit pictures.
Oh.
I take a look at the pictures, and then only if it's some special cases, I tell some people, I'm like, no, I gotta lay hands on you. I have to see x-rays. But most people, I can definitely determine with my expertise what needs to be done.
Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with Dr. Yolanda Ragland, and AKA, what's her name?
I'm your Dr. Foot Fixer. I'm your foot fairy, and I am queen of all the toes.
I just had to have you say that. It's Fix Your Feet Inc. On Twitter, but Fix Your Feet on Instagram, on Facebook, and www.fixyourfeet.com. She's a Park Ave doctor, and you might have seen her on the cover of several magazines. Thank you so much for chatting with us, Dr. Ragland, and you and I will be talking again.
Yes, and oh yeah, one more thing before we go. I'm coming out with a fungal nail product, so you guys look out for that soon. Fix Your Fungal Nail. It's coming really, really soon. It does magic.
Oh, well, you have to keep the whole woman in the loop. We'll be sure to get it out there.
Okay.
Your fungal?
Fix your fungal nail.
All right, cool. Fix Your Fungal Nail. Awesome. Hey, join us same place, same time tomorrow, 6 p.m. right here on Facebook, live on the Whole Woman page. We'll be talking with Jason Wallace, the restaurant scientist. In the meantime, I'm Natalie McKenzie, and I'm the Whole Woman. I wish you enough life to live, enough joy to give, enough love to share. I wish you enough. Good night.